Football season is back, and so is Little Caesars NFL Marketing Blitz. Now, in its fourth year as the league's official pizza sponsor, the chain has rolled out a season long Dear Deal value campaign aimed at connecting with fans. Greg Hamilton, Chief Marketing Officer at Little Caesars, joins the Marketer's Brief podcast this week to talk about how the NFL partnership has helped the brand lure back lapsed consumers, advice for other brands considering becoming an NFL sponsor, and how the chain is continuing to capitalize on the success of its Crazy Puffs. Hamilton and I also discuss Little Caesars' Super Bowl strategy and whether or not the brand will be returning to the big game next year. All right. Well, Greg, thank you so much for being here. So obviously football season is upon us and you all are going to be back in the media mix around some football games this year. We hear all the time, even, from other brands too, that sports is a really coveted audience. But can you talk a little bit about why the NFL audience specifically works for Little Caesars?
Yeah, and first of all, thanks for having me, Erica. I'm really excited about the conversation. Sports is very important for a lot of different advertisers for sure. For us, we are a brand where pizza is such a kind of like a natural food to eat while you're consuming sports, while you're watching sports. The NFL is obviously the largest stage. So that was what kind of drew us to have conversations initially with the league. We're in our fourth year now, and what I think we've learned since then is it's not just about the kind of the size of the NFL, it's also the intensity of the passion that seems to really translate into some effective marketing for us, some real tangible results for us. And so we've been thrilled to be partnering with the league. Their scale is unmatched. We think we also bring kind of a fun lightheartedness to the league in the way that we bring our marketing to life. That's been just a lot of fun to kind of develop over the 4 years that we've been in this with them.
Okay, we're going to get into some of the marketing there, some of that creative. So, a part of this is you mentioned you guys have been an NFL sponsor for going on I think this is your fourth year that you said. What keeps you all coming back? Like, I'm curious, are there KPIs around your partnership that you look at, or like how has it evolved, since you first started?
Yeah, great question. Certainly there are a lot of KPIs that we kind of hold on to and very much track on a regular basis. The most substantial kind of a goal for us going into this partnership was to make sure that we were reintroducing the Little Caesars brand to people that haven't tried us for a long time. We were really excited about the idea that so many people have a history with Little Caesars. The first thing they'll say is pizza, pizza, or hot and ready when you mention that you work for Little Caesars. A lot of them haven't been in a long time. And particularly prior to this partnership, we kind of uncovered that this was a big opportunity area. And so it helped people kind of view Little Caesars in a different light as the official pizza of the NFL. And that kind of gave them a reason to check us out again. And so a lot of the things that we have been tracking and the things that have been changing over the past 4 years is just how effective we've been in not only kind of encouraging people to try us again, but also those repeat transactions. And so I'm pleased to report that it's been a very positive thing for us on that front. In terms of the things that have changed from a marketing standpoint, there's a tremendous amount, and we've really dialed it in after 3 years of complete seasons now, and a lot that we've already got completely done that will be unveiled this season. And a lot of the focus is on making sure that we're kind of stoking that fandom in a pretty substantial way. One real tangible example of that this year is our challenge program that we have continued to evolve at Little Caesars Challenge Program. It's available in our app, and it allows fans to select their favorite team and have personalized experiences throughout the season that encourage them to engage with the challenge program, as well as, of course, order pizza at Little Caesars on a weekly basis.
Talk to me about what are some of the challenges
Sometimes it's as simple as just predicting the score of the game that your team is engaged in, and if you get it right, there's a certain perk or prize that you get. Sometimes it's about making sure that you place your order during what we call the Pizza pregame, which is an effort that we've had since our first season that encourages people to take advantage of unique deals and offers during game days. And then if you have an order of a certain kind that includes certain products or a certain average check, you might earn another perk or another prize. This year's enhancements that we're really excited about is all about kind of the consistency of ordering week in and week out. So if you continue to order more and more during the season, you're eligible for greater prizes and a chance to win some really exciting things. So it's a powerful program. We're excited about it. I encourage you for sure to download the app and check it out.
If you were to give advice, say if there were another brand who were to come in and say we would love to be an official sponsor with the NFL, do you have any advice for them? Like, was there anything that you learned, after your first year going into it, you're like, wish I'd known that, not a big deal, but any words of wisdom?
Oh, great question. I love that question. I think for us, a lot of those lessons we were able to learn very early on because, we employ an expert sports marketing agency that helps us avoid some of those pitfalls that maybe some brands fall into. So we leverage Genesco Sports as our sports marketing agency of record. And they talked a lot about owning a moment. And so the Pizza pregame kind of was born out of that moment, right? The time immediately prior to the game starting was a moment that we felt like we could kind of stake a claim in and own and encourage people to buy their pizza before the game. They also talked a lot about making sure that we're leveraging all of the assets that come with the partnership in the right way. And so a lot of brands, own the right to the shield, and they maybe have opportunities to leverage that in unique ways, and they don't necessarily, for whatever reason, decide to lean into it. So we decided very early on to lean into the idea of kind of trumpeting the fact that we are the official pizza of the NFL, putting it absolutely everywhere, making sure that we're leveraging athletes in uniform in the most effective ways, the most clear ways where they're very recognizable. And so, again, I feel like maybe those would be learnings that some brands would need to have in order to get the most value out of the sponsorship. But thankfully, we came in with some expertise right out of the gates.
Always good to let us go to somebody smarter and go from there.
I
Makes
rely
sense.
on much smarter people than me all the time.
Okay. Okay, you mentioned, yes, that Little Caesars has used some athletes in the marketing. So let's talk about your most recent campaign that's coming out for this season has been George Kittle and the Deal Deer. And let's start. We'll start there. Can you talk a little bit about where did the idea for the Deal Deer come from? How was that born?
Yes. Well, yeah, it's not necessarily the first thing that comes to mind when you think about pizza deals in the NFL is a deer that helps you understand how you can get amazing deals at Little Caesars. But Deal Deer was born out of the charge that we gave to our creative agency McKinney this year to make sure that we were creating fun and breakthrough creative that could really last the entire season. So a kind of a season long campaign. We haven't done that before with the NFL, and we were excited to explore that as a territory. Now, the purpose is to help convey that Little Caesars is the real deal as it pertains to value. Our value chops have always been unparalleled. We've been known for, having just unbeatable value for decades. And we wanted to make sure that we were kind of continuing to cement that in the minds of consumers in a way that breaks through all of the noise that you see during the NFL season from other sponsors, but also from other brands that are not NFL sponsors. And so all credit goes to McKinney for this brilliant campaign. They created it, they championed it, they helped us understand how it was going to come to life. And I've been really, really thrilled with the way that it has come to life with this first spot featuring George Kittle.
So, talking about George Kittle, so that you have worked with him before. He is a returning face to the Little Caesars marketing playbook.
Right.
You guys have worked with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I believe that Saquon Barkley is going to show up this year as well.
Right. Yes. Very soon.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit like How do you guys decide on these players? Like, what is your pitch to them? What makes them keep coming back?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a very thoughtful process that we kind of go through. We have really enjoyed working with George Kittle. Now this is his 3rd year with us. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is this is his 2nd year with us. And then you're right, Saquon Barkley very soon will be featured in a brand new commercial. And the way that we choose these athletes is first and foremost, they need to be a personality fit with our brand. They need to help us continue to retain the kind of personality that has been a part of our advertising going back decades and that we really feel strongly is very important to maintain and kind of bring kind of a fresh approach to. George Kittle is, a just an amazing personality himself, and he has brought a lot of fun to the creative campaigns that we didn't even ask him to bring, which has been really fun to see come to life. He's an excellent brand ambassador. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is similarly an excellent brand ambassador. And everyone knows how Amon-Ra is just kind of the hardest working person in the NFL, right? You definitely know that Amon-Ra puts his all into things, and he's doing that with our advertising and our commercials as well. Even some local things in the Detroit area, he's working really hard for us on, and it's been fun to have those personalities come to life. Of course, the fandom that follows these teams is another piece. I talked about kind of the passionate fan bases and some of the learnings that I think we've had since engaging in this partnership is that tapping into those passionate fan bases effectively can translate to business results. And so the 49ers are obviously an excellent team. The Lions are an excellent team, and tapping into kind of the excitement about what they're going to do this season is something that we're interested in continuing. And then, of course, the Eagles, having won the Super Bowl, Saquon has always been one of those athletes that we've talked about working with. And this year we were excited to be able to bring him on to our roster, so to speak. And yeah, I mean, it's just going to be about a week or so from now that we'll be able to see him come to life in some advertising.
You talked about the fandoms, but associated with these athletes, and I believe that a part of the Deal Deer campaign has to do with some in real life, some IRL activations in certain cities. Can you talk a little bit more about what do those look like? Is that a new, like, is that part of the NFL partnership? Is that just a part of the campaign? And why do some, experiential stuff?
Yeah, it's a great question, a great point. There's some things that we're going to keep a little bit confidential, as much as I'd love to reveal them here in this podcast. But what we believe strongly about is the idea of creating a campaign that's going to be able to sustain this entire season with Deal Deer, and the ability to amplify the effectiveness of this campaign through multiple touch points that exist beyond just traditional spots and dots. And so there are some things that we are planning for later this season where, Deal Deer is going to show up and hopefully make a splash with consumers. And there are some things socially that Deal Deer is going to do that we're excited about as well. And so we view this as an opportunity to create something that's a little bit more multifaceted and leverage the consistency of having Deal Deer appear in our advertising and our marketing for the purposes of kind of maximizing the impact of the total campaign throughout the season.
So I know that the deal deer is, a value focused thing. And I feel like with food, like value has been a big ongoing conversation. How do you all keep that messaging fresh? Because I feel like even if it is like it's a deal, there are consumers who are like, oh, I'm so tired of this ad. So how do you make sure that it still is landing, is still breaking through?
Yeah, that is an excellent question as well. I really spend a lot of my time with the team making sure that we are preparing to have fresh and impactful messaging that comes to life for consumers. And we have certainly an analysis from a science standpoint that we use to make sure that we're feeling good, but we also have just the art side of it as well. The great news is with a campaign like Deal Deer, there's a lot of different angles that can be taken and that we will be taking because we've obviously produced a tremendous amount of the assets already that will keep it fresh. So different kinds of ways in to leverage Deal Deer in a way that's additive and doesn't feel duplicative with what we've done so far. So we're excited about having all of that come to life. But from a value standpoint, you're right. There is a lot of value messaging in the marketplace right now. Values are bread and butter. As I said before, we're known for having kind of unbeatable value. We were just ranked yet again as the best value in America by Data Central. And I think that makes our, I don't know, 16th or 17th consecutive year of being the best value in America from various different sources going back that long. And so we want to make sure that we're just re-cementing that for consumers as everyone else is kind of pivoting into a territory that's similar to where our strengths lie.
Outside of the NFL partnership and spots, can we talk about just more broadly your media mix? So, are there channels where you all are, investing more and, or like recently you've been putting more into social, into digital, into wherever? Are there places where you're like we've pulled back a little bit? Just what's a snapshot? What does it look like?
Yeah, well, I would say that first of all, the media mix is always evolving. If you're standing still, you're certainly being left behind as consumer habits change so dramatically, right? And my background has been in media, so I kind of came up from that kind of subject matter expertise. And when I first came here to Little Caesars, I wasn't in this role yet, but the first thing I did was kind of work to optimize our media mix and make sure it was as impactful as it could be. So, in short, we live in a digital first world and our media mix reflects that. And we work very hard to make sure that we're continuing to optimize our media mix and measure the effectiveness of it so that it's driving the maximum amount of return on investment for our franchisees as possible. So we are very heavily invested in digital video. And that includes, by the way, digital live in-game advertising for the NFL. We are heavily invested in other kinds of streaming content. We're heavily invested in the social space, performance, digital, and all sorts of investments related to kind of driving transactions. So all of those pieces are kind of the primary focus for us. And as we think about more traditional advertising with linear television, that's a smaller portion than it used to be. And each year it becomes a little bit smaller. But again, we're very confident that we're using our dollars in the most effective way that we can to make sure that our franchisees see a business benefit at the end of the day.
Well, so part of a big investment that some brands choose to go with the Super Bowl. So you guys ran a Super Bowl spot earlier this year. You had Eugene Levy and his eyebrows focused on your crazy puffs. Did that investment pay off? Did you see a business result from that?
Yeah, great. Great. It was a great campaign. It was a great time to be able to return to the Super Bowl for the first time in 5 years. Short answer to your question is yes, we definitely saw a very positive benefit by returning to the Super Bowl. We view the Super Bowl as a tactic that makes sense depending on the kinds of initiatives that we're planning to prioritize and when we're planning to launch them. And so this year, as we started to see our calendar come to life and we knew that the magic of Crazy Puffs was something that we wanted to highlight yet again, and also add a line extension with bacon and cheese Crazy Puffs at the time, it felt like a natural fit for us to consider the Super Bowl. So as we started to engage in these discussions and we started to do the analysis about the investment, it became very clear that it was going to be a worthwhile thing for us. We chose, as you mentioned, to partner with Eugene Levy. And so all of these things worked very hard to drive the kind of result that we needed to drive because the creative concept was all about leaning into the moment that you take your first bite of Crazy Puffs and kind of this experience, this flavor experience that you have. And we would call it a whoa moment. People would talk to us about how when they first had Crazy Puffs, they didn't expect to have this kind of pop of flavor. And so there were a lot of whoa moments that consumers were having. And so those that hadn't tried Crazy Puffs yet, we were intending to convey that through this creative. And I think that McKinney did an incredible job tying a whoa moment to what happens with your eyebrows when you say whoa, which is they raise. And, it wasn't too much of a leap then to realize that you partnering with Eugene Levy was the right approach to really convey what a whoa moment looks like. And so We were just thrilled with the way that the spot came to life. We were absolutely thrilled with the business results. And certainly Crazy Puffs continue to be just a very kind of critical product for us in our menu mix for Little Caesars.
We'll talk a little bit about the continuation of Crazy Puffs, but I have to ask, are we going to see you back in the Super Bowl next year?
I thought you might ask that. Too early to be seen. As I said before, we don't automatically return to the Super Bowl. We use it as a tactic when it makes sense. So the stars would need to align, but I wouldn't say never, of course, because the results have proven to be very positive for us.
Well, okay, so positive. So last year, the or this year, the Super Bowl spot was the bacon cheesy puffs, and I believe that just as of yesterday, you guys will have rolled out cheesesteak. So we have a new line of the Crazy Puffs. Can you talk a little bit? So clearly, it's doing well. You're expanding that product. Why cheesesteak? I'm curious. I'm always curious to hear what the consumer data is on, a new menu item.
Yeah, the great thing about the Crazy Puffs platform, and we're calling it a platform because it really is a platform, is that it's so versatile. We have so many different ways that this kind of product experience that's so compact and just intensely flavorful and very attractive from a price point standpoint for consumers, so many different ways that it can come to life. And when we did continuing research, as we knew we wanted to expand the line of Crazy Puffs, one of the things that kept popping up was this idea of something outside of the traditional pizza space that allowed us to kind of create a new flavor experience that consumers would get very excited about. And so the research told us, hey, there's something with cheesesteak here. And so we kept looking into whether or not that was something we could pull off at the restaurants and whether we could make it affordable and exciting for consumers. And the more we looked into it, the more we realized we really have a hit on our hands, or a likely hit, right? It's very early. So we'll see if it actually becomes a hit. But we have a lot of confidence that this product is going to do well with consumers. It's really going to resonate. So that will be here as of, just in a few days in our restaurants. And then we're going to have a campaign that lasts a good portion of the start of the NFL season to support it. And that is the one that will include Saquon Barkley. Feels like a natural fit, right? Cheesesteak, Crazy Puffs, and then you've got the Super Bowl winning Saquon Barkley from the Philadelphia Eagles, right? It just was too perfect for us not to take advantage of it.
Okay. As we head into the end of the year, Greg, and maybe even into 2026, what are some consumer trends that you are keeping an eye on?
Yeah, the first one you kind of talked about, in our industry, we have had the luxury of having such a distinct positioning in the marketplace from a value standpoint for a long time. And what we're seeing is that really others are wanting to capitalize on that success and similarly return to some pretty intense value messaging. And I think that obviously, as you look across the board with the kind of uncertainty in the marketplace, macroeconomic realities that may or may not present themselves, but or maybe threatening to present themselves, the result of all sorts of things, consumers are continually looking for value. They're looking for ways for them to be smarter with their money. And so that seems to be just something that is so top of mind and unignorable. Now we feel like it leans into our strength, so that's great. And so we plan to double down on that to make sure that we're leveraging kind of where consumers are at, because we're built on value and we know that we can sustain value messaging for the long term, and our competitors really can't do that very well. The second is this idea of personalization is just continuing to be, I would say, turbocharged over the past few years. And I think there are some brands that are doing that very well. And certainly in our space, I mentioned our challenge program, but really at every touch point, we're intending to kind of emphasize greater personalization for consumers. They're expecting it, right? They know that there's a tremendous amount of capabilities for brands to leverage the data that they have on consumers and make sure that the experiences are tailored to them more effectively. And so, whether that's in a digital ad, or if it's how our online promotions come to life, or if it's through things like Little Caesars challenges I mentioned before, that's something that we're continuing to lean into. And I think consumers are expecting to a greater degree. And then the last piece is it feels to me like the idea of authenticity, the need for authenticity with connecting with consumers in the areas where they have passion is more important than ever. And so we've been thrilled with the idea of being able to capitalize on that through our NFL partnership because we feel like we do have the right to have an authentic connection with consumers in that space. A lot of people love watching football and eating pizza. Little Caesars is the best pizza. I'm a little biased, but the best pizza to eat while you're watching a football game. But beyond the just the sports space as well, there are other ways to be more effective in making an emotional connection with consumers that feels more powerful than a traditional kind of transactional experience. And that starts with the authenticity and the kind of the purpose of engaging and interacting in those spaces. So another example for us is we have a partnership with Call of Duty, which is coming up on our 4th year. The most popular video game, right, in the US. It has been perennially for a long time. So we're excited about continuing that partnership in ways that bring people value just simply by eating at Little Caesars. So something they need to do anyway. They need to eat food, they need to order food. We bring them value just by choosing Little Caesars instead of somebody else. So I would say those 3 areas right now are top of mind for me as we're continuing to kind of round out 2025 and move into 2026.
That was Greg Hamilton, Chief Marketing Officer of Little Caesars. And I'm Erica Wheelis, Food and Restaurant Marketing Reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Ciardio, and invite you to subscribe to The Marketer's Brief wherever you get your podcasts. We promise to keep it brief, or at least short enough for your morning coffee. Thanks for listening.
Marketer's Brief listeners get $40 off an adage.com subscription. Sharpen your marketing edge and visit adage.com/brief for your discount.